Now, a new study led by UCL researchers has found that working days lost to long COVID could be costing the economy billions of pounds every year as patients struggle to cope with symptoms and return to work. The research, published in BMJ Open and funded by the National Institute for Health and Care Research, examined the impact of the condition on more than 4,000 patients who were referred to a specialist clinic and registered in the Living with COVID Recovery programme between August 2020 and August 2022. Well, Polina Sparks joins me now. Polina has long COVID and is an employment rights advocate at Long COVID Support. Polina, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. Just tell us firstly then about your own struggles with long COVID. When and how did it start? What happened?
All right. I was one of the people who caught COVID in early 2020. I was quite severely ill, but was not admitted to hospital. I was told I would recover in 7 to 10 days. That did not happen, and my symptoms worsened. I then had pneumonia and ended up with long COVID. So in my case, I ended up having to give up the job I had because when I went back to work, I was nowhere near well enough to be able to do it. And when we set up the Long COVID Support Employment Rights Group, there were a lot of stories like that, of people not being supported at work, of struggling with their symptoms, of facing a lot of barriers in return to work, potentially having to leave their jobs. So that's how this came about.
So it clearly impacted your daily life, your relationships and work. From what you've gathered then, Polina, since, are employers in the main, sympathetic to the condition or not?
It varies between employers. I think there is some more awareness, but not nearly enough. I've been fortunate in that I've been able to go back to work with a new employer on reduced hours. And as Long COVID Support, we have carried out repeated surveys, and we have done them by ourselves and also with the Trade Union Congress. And what came out of those surveys, especially the latest one, which was done last year, was that half of all workers with long COVID had experienced unfair treatment, where they've met with disbelief at work, people questioning their symptoms, they've met with discrimination, and so forth. And when we did our initial survey, it was about 1 in 15 people who had lost their jobs to long COVID. At last count in 2023, it was 1 in 7. And 1 in 6 had reduced their hours. So that was our study.
Yeah, has it become so serious then, would you say, Polina, now that perhaps you need to see more government or Department for Health action on it, certainly more understanding and more rights over it?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the first thing to say is that the only way not to have long COVID is not to catch COVID. People have this idea that it only affects clinically vulnerable or elderly people and so on and so forth. But the latest study by GPs said it's 4.5% of people in the UK. That's about 3.1 million. A lot of them are working age people, and increasingly with each variant, we have seen younger and younger people affected. And the more infections people get, the more likely they are to get long COVID. So we've seen very high rates of it in teaching, where teachers are exposed in the classroom. We have seen, about a third of people with long COVID are people working in health and social care, where again, they're exposed to repeated infections. And the number of children with long COVID have doubled within the space of a year.
Polina, appreciate you telling us your story. We wish you well in future. Polina Sparks there, who's got long COVID and is an employment rights advocate at Long COVID Support.